Our clients right now, they may be saying, oh my God, the market's down, our profit share is down. So we meet them where they are, and then we hopefully build them to a state where they want to be. So how do we connect with their current situation of depletion, of depravity, of failure, to a place of hope into the future? Things will always turn around. Right now, we have a financial stress. We're going to come to financial abundance. The challenge to us is to build that relationship with our clients in trust, because customer loyalty is everything. And loyalty is built over time. It's not in the immediate, it's in a future state. And typically, the greatest trust is born out of times of hopelessness to times of prosperity and great hope in the future.
In 2023, say goodbye to operational constraints and skewed demand predictions. Printful Enterprise is here to take all of that off your plate with white label on-demand production. Reach your global customer base with more cost efficiency than ever and offer them a wide range of premium quality products from apparel to home decor. Printful will fulfill, pack, and ship orders all under your brand. Team up with a player who will always be dedicated to your growth. Team up with Printful Enterprise. We did at DTC, and we've never looked back. Learn more at printful.com/enterprise. That's printful.com/enterprise. Join the team. It's all killer, no filler. I'm Eric Dick, and this is the DTC Podcast. Today, we decided to come to the table with something totally different, something we haven't done before. And I'll let Kyle explain a little bit about why we brought Mr. Peter McCoppin onto the podcast.
Certainly, yeah. Peter's been a long-time friend and mentor to Pilothouse. We've had the luxury of working with him in leadership training, certain consulting, and a lot of his lessons have guided us in how we've approached our model, our culture, our business. And I just wanted to give the audience a chance to maybe learn a thing or two from him also as we go into 2023 with a little uncertainty.
Speaking of the uncertainty of 2023, I think it's on everybody's minds. Everyone appears to be. January is always a little sluggish, I feel like, as people are kind of get their plan for the year in gear. But there feels to be an extra sluggishness with a lot of apprehension about about the potential chaos ahead of us in 2023. Peter, what's your theory on chaos and how to sort of thrive in it in organizations like the ones in our audience?
Thank you so much. And just thank you for the privilege of joining your conversation today. So chaos and crisis, almost one and the same, always invite opportunity. An opportunity for each and every one of us to dig deep into our resourcefulness, to confront our fears, to test and temper our resilience and resolve, to adapt, and then to carve a brilliant new path forward to a brighter future. So there is only opportunity in this current situation. When we say that we're looking at things with fresh eyes, that's what crisis does or chaos does. It compels us to take another look, to do things differently. Dr. David Bohm was the founder of the implicate theory of quantum physics. He said it's more important to think differently than the knowledge gained. So to take a different perspective, a different point of view, to challenge our habitual practice. When things are going smoothly, we're almost mindlessly moving forward. When we hit the wall, we have to really be very resourceful. And that's that resourcefulness that will get us to a new state of being. Then two, to push through our fear. I mean, what is fear? It's a projection from past experience into the future. False evidence appearing real. It's false. And then to test and temper our resilience and resolve. Are we going to stand strong? And how do we do that? Reaffirming our values, the core of who we are. Pilothouse has grown exponentially, phenomenally in such a short period of time. How has the company done that? From the inside out, from character, from core values, from the essential part of the soul of the company. It has grown organically, progressively, systematically from that center. And then to adapt. I mean, the measure of the intelligence of any organization is based on two principles: the ability to assess, assimilate, and apply new knowledge, and the ability to adapt. Within strategic imperatives of speed and range are critical. So this is a golden opportunity And we think of those people who we most admire. Those are the ones who have walked through the fire and have reinvented themselves with even more mindfulness, greater intention, and determination.
And then, even before this, it's all amazing stuff. And even before that, like you were speaking earlier to this idea of this, everyone feels like they're in a unique point in history, and with all that's happening, with the way the media is, with the way AI is taking over, it feels very much like we're in this, we're heading towards a singularity or some great cataclysm or some great rebirth or something. But you're sort of saying this is something that happens cyclically throughout time, all to generations.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. We study history not to understand the past, but only to anticipate the future. So if we look back 90 years, we'll see a scenario which in so many ways is a mirror to where we are right now. What is that scenario? It is disruption, collapse, and renewal. Disruption, Henry Ford's invention of the assembly line. It changed industry forever. And then collapse followed there. What was that? That was the Great Depression. And what came after that? Roosevelt's New Deal. So here we have, yes, indeed, disruption, AI, SpaceX, Twitter, Facebook, name it, whatever, robotics, all kinds of things. Collapse, perhaps to an extent that we've never experienced before, because it seems to be on all fronts, financial, physical, whatever, the earth, whatever, all these kinds of things. So what's on the other side of this is equal and opposite unto it. Newton's first law, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I think the invitation, I was just thinking about this in anticipation of our call today, the invitation to us is to give people hope for the future. Why are we afraid? Why does fear emerge? Because we cannot see the future. We stand in awe of the darkness before us. We don't know what to expect. So how do we provide our clients and each other comfort from the current demise or depletion to future hope? Now that would be, if that's the quest, it's amazing what we can come up with. And the solution will not be rational, it'll be intuitive.
You bring up Henry Ford, and the example I've heard about that I love was that before the car, the cities of the United States were choking on horse shit. Literally just choking their gutters. They were getting cholera. They were getting all these different things. They had this huge horse shit problem. And then all of a sudden, this revolution comes along, and within 5 to 10 years, that problem went away. There's other problems that were created by the car, but the upside was that this new paradigm totally shifted this huge problem the society was having. And again, it's these second order positive effects that are going to happen. We just see, like you say, the dark cloud of unsurety, but in every action is going to have an equal opposite reaction. There will all be these huge silver linings and these huge problems that are solved as we shift paradigms.
Absolutely. So to identify what is our current state, if we're wanting to support people, what is our current state? And to be really sober about that, let's just drive on the data. Where are we right now? Let's be really specific. And below that, what are our dissatisfied needs? Our dissatisfied needs, our clients' dissatisfied needs. Let's contemplate what would great look like. And let's just do it in rather pictorial, philosophical terms. And from there, determine our strategic imperatives, the how, not the what, of how we'll get from where we are now to where we want to be. The how. The how is the critical thing. So to which extent then, I'm just thinking about our clients right now. They may be saying, oh my God, the market's down, our profit share is down, whatever else. So we meet them where they are. I mean, in any kind of relationship, we meet people where they are, and then we hopefully build them to a state where they want to be. So this is where they are now. So how do we connect with their current situation of hope, we'll say, of depletion, of depravity, of failure, to a place of hope into the future? And I had this, I don't know, you're all much more astute in business than I, but I just thought to myself, how do we build that bridge? And so we look at certain companies and they say, well, it's just New Year's and you've spent all your money and so forth. You can buy something at the brick warehouse right now and you don't have to pay until 2025. What have they just done? They've honored the current state of their client, but they've also given them hope to the future, which is mutually beneficial. So how do we build that in? If we were to say, well, maybe you should just drop your prices by 10%, and then in the future, give a 5% credit for having done that on future purchases down the road. Things will always turn around. We've seen that throughout. Right now, we have a financial stress. We're going to come to financial abundance. That's just the way the world works. For every action, there's equal opposite reaction. The challenge to us is to build that relationship with our clients in trust, because customer service is nothing. Customer loyalty is everything. And loyalty is built over time. It's not in the immediate. It's not in the moment. It's in a future state. It's building that continuity. And typically, the greatest trust is born out of times of hopelessness to times of prosperity and great hope in the future.
One of the things that I hear, I'm hearing a lot in the space is especially in this D2C e-commerce fast growth environment, people are always talking about doubling. They're talking about, it's actually, D2C was lucky enough, we worked hard enough, we doubled and I know Pilothouse has been doubling for the past few years as well. But I've heard that really, like when you look at companies over time, over the long haul, doubling is great. If you can double every year for your business's existence, that's amazing. But you look at companies that have $10 billion in profit at this point, and they had years and years and years where they're humming at 8, 9, 10% growth. And so this idea that's imperative, I think that's very, that's in our space very heavily about needing to double, needing to have these huge hockey stick growth curves. I also feel like now is a time to think about that long-term play, as you say as well, not, temper
Always.
your growth goals potentially, right?
Absolutely. It's always the long term. It's always the long term. And it's how it evens out over time. Yes, maybe there's going to be a 50% growth, and then there's going to be a 10% growth, and a 12%, and then a 90% growth. Well, how does that average out over time? And
Compounds.
Definitely to meet people where they are now. We have to play, if we want to play the game, we got to play by the rules, so to say. And what this is the current context. So how can we be the most effective within that? And certainly with companies that are saying, oh my God, our sales are down, our profits are down and so forth. Yes, but to which we would say, yes, but $1 is more than zero. So how are we going to deal with that? To be quite pragmatic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so, fully. Now, when we apply this to these principles to organizational leadership, like what are the factors in this construct that make a great leader that can really help see an organization through to the long term? Beautiful.
Well, I think a few principles of Einstein would be really helpful. In the first place, to see that that this crisis is an opportunity. That it's absolutely an opportunity to see things with fresh eyes, to dig deep into our resourcefulness, to build new tools, new resource, whatever that is, new practice, to look into the shadow side of our business and not just into the light, where there are going to be secrets that we've never explored before. How fantastic is that? Einstein said a lot of things that were brilliant. Two things in particular. He said, a problem cannot be solved from the same consciousness that created it. So in other words, what got us here will not get us there. So let's just contemplate that for a moment. He also said that at first, if an idea does not appear to be absurd, it has no future. So let's contemplate the impossible, but let's do it very constructively. So say, what's our current reality? For us and our clients, what's our current reality? Let's be really, really sober about that. Let's dig into the hard facts, the brutal facts and the truth. Where we are. And then let's just go below that. What are our dissatisfied needs? Because dissatisfaction drives change. And then contemplate what the future would look like, and then come back to those strategic imperatives. How do we get from where we are to where we want to be? So the other thing, I think, in terms of leadership, leadership is creating a condition, thinking about, for example, Malcolm Gladwell, the tipping point. Context defines behavior. So we want to create a context within which people can lift themselves up. This is the Bernoulli principle. We don't lift them, we create a context within which. So, in other words, any idea is great and a great idea. We're going to enlist what we would call distributed cognition. Great ideas can come from anywhere. Let's just storm that. And let's give each other the psychological and emotional space just to show up and to be bold and creative. And the wilder it sounds, perhaps the better.
Yeah, I think of that as I think of Pilothouse as a company. I started at employee number 17. It's now 166 people, and the way it has grown is it's funny. I think of Pilothouse. It's a house for pilots. It's sort of like it's a structure, a place where you can go, but you still get to be Top Gun. You still get to go and fly often where you want to fly how you want to fly, and that's why Pilothouse succeeds is on the creativity of these people that have been given this construct that gets them to act as if they've got an invisible thread running through their chest. And that's the context, the Bernoulli principle of the organization that's been created here that kind of like gives people that uplift. I'm lucky, in this position where I've been given this opportunity to build this company with Pilothouse. I'm like, in that, I'm an example for the company to be like, okay, here's what happens when you really can lift off, right? You get to create your own thing and run with it and have your own team. And so I feel like my business and Pilothouse, the way this all fits together just creates this context for people to be able to be self-led to some degree.
Absolutely. Yes. We want to enlist autonomy. And people support what they create. When people have authorship in their own decision, they will follow through. They will do amazing things. So we're not going to give. You talk about leadership. We're not there to direct. We're there to ask great questions, because everyone on the team has all the answers they need already within them. Michelangelo said the image is in the stone. He just takes away the excess. That's all leadership does. Takes away the excess to reveal that which is inherent. And I'm thinking too that the solution to something that we've never experienced before. It's not rational. It's not, we're not going to call upon past practices. We think about best practice. Well, we've done it this way all the time. We're going to just apply that a little bit more rigorously in the future. No, it's not going to come rationally or reasonably. It's going to come intuitively. I have a tape of famous quotations of Einstein. My God, what a mind. And he said, I think about something 90 times. I just really putting my hard focus on that. Then I forget it. And out of the blue, something intuitive comes to me. So when I was just in anticipation of being with you all today, I just took a walk, just had a walk. And I thought, okay. So if the scenario is how do we support our people and our clients from a state of depletion, entropy, whatever, to a place of hope. Okay, that's the request. How do we do that? This is this to this. It's very philosophical. Now, having asked that very specific question, how do we build that constructively? And that's where I came up with this idea. Well, maybe we reduce something and then we have a credit to the future. But the goal is to meet people where they are, acknowledge where they are, match to them in this current state, and then help them to connect with ourselves to a future state, which is both building a great relationship, but it's also building future profit in a very pragmatic way.
Kyle, how does this resonate with you specifically, like in the challenges that the agency experiences over the course of a year? How does this resonate?
Yeah, good question. It's we've just had the luxury of working with Peter for so long now, and so I've certainly taken in a lot of what he is saying in the past, and we've certainly applied that to how we've built our leaders within our teams, or how people have just created this incredible culture that we have. But without doing that, talking too much about that specifically, I think like ultimately this idea of not looking at things in a closed off, fear-centric way, and treating and trusting your team and your ability to think abundantly, to be aggressive where you think that there is an opportunity, and to rally and build community around these ideas, like you said, Eric, is really the thing that I think has, people talk about companies and differentiators and blah, 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 blah. But, realistically, beyond the technology, beyond our process, beyond our ability, really the culture, this all winning culture thing really is the thing that keeps us moving forward, and, gives us confidence going into the next year. There's obviously specific strategy and client communication traffic strategies and deal optimization and all these things that Peter's talking about. But ultimately, we encourage creativity, we encourage people to be leaders, we encourage authorship, and we support people at all costs.
A great example of that was just this past week where, AI and chat is on us like a hurricane, fastest growing tech platform of all time, potentially. And, Pilothouse, Jeff, co-founder at DTC, and Pilothouse, of course, came up with a contest. I think the execs came up with this idea of a contest that would be run for Pilothouse employees just to provide ideas and instances where AI helps reduce or improve the workflow within our organization. And to me, it's a good example of that, like, crisis opportunity type thing. People are like, oh, advertising is going to our jobs are going to be replaced by robots and AI soon. And instead of that, you think about, no, like, how can we be, cyborgs and be 10 times more productive or cost effective in what we do by leveraging the technology?
Yeah, Eric, that's a really good point. And I think the difference is we'll follow through on that. So someone's going to win $2,000 or whatever it is for their contribution. We also incentivize the shit out of ideas. So we empower ideas. We pay people for them. We make them leaders for those ideas. And so, ultimately someone's going to make some cash and we'll build it. Like, we're going to go and build it. We'll build a team around it. We'll follow through. And, that's one example of, riding the wave of chaos is figuring out how to monetize it, which goes into like opportunity. And monetization can be in the form of cost savings or actual scale out profitability in a new vertical category or department. So that's just kind of how we treat things. And ironically, we've always said, even the businesses before Pilothouse, we've always said, automate yourself out of a job. We've always encouraged people to find hacks to save time, to work a 4-hour work week. I don't care if you're able to build technology that allows you to work 4 hours a week and manage the tech to do it, like, go do it. And so now it's just, there's all these tools that are available beyond Zapier and, working with, people in alternative markets for cost savings specifically. There's going to be all this great opportunity to advance our industry and advance our client success. And, we're just leaning into it as opposed to being afraid to it. We're going to invest into it. And we've made some other big investments this year, purchasing headless commerce technology, because we know that we're going to be able to, add 20% to all of our clients' bottom line just by speeding up their Shopify experience. We've proven that. So yeah, we just, again, back to abundance mindset over a fear mindset, I think is the main takeaway for me. And I think that that's the thing that I'm holding on to is something our team believes in, and we're just going for it.
I think there's great power in questions and how we can turn things around. I'll give you an example to that. I have a friend, Jason Dorland. He was an Olympic rower, 1988 Olympics in Seoul. And he coaches a lot of young people now. And so the power of the question. So when they have a bad race and they feel, they feel depleted, they feel frustrated, they feel whatever, maybe even shame, he will say, how can this be the best thing that could have happened to you today? So if we were to say, how can this current financial crisis, this chaos, be the best thing that could have happened to us today? What can we learn that we've never done before? What will we keep in past practice and pay forward? What will we discard because it is no longer relevant? What can we change? What can we add? These are great questions. So the power of the question elicits what's already within us. One could say Leonardo da Vinci, arguably the greatest creative mind of the past, 500 years. And he had many principles by which he was able to create so fantastically. And that's documented in a book by Michael Gelb called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. And the best of all of his disciplines was this. So all these are in Italian. So the first one was sfumato. What does that mean? Fumato means smoke. Fumato means smoked. Sfumato means up in smoke. In other words, the greatest opportunity is in ambiguity, paradox, and uncertainty. You say, I don't know. Great. Okay, now we can do something. Rather than say, I can fall back on past practice. I can lean into something that I've done before. I sort of know a little bit about this. I'll just expand it. No, I don't know anything. Great. How fantastic that is. And so the power of the question, and the more precise, the more incisive, the more exact, the more surgical the question, the more precise, clear, compelling the answer. In complementing what Kyle was just saying, with all this, the wizardry of AI, the one thing that AI will never be able to do is to build a personal relationship. That's where people will always be essential. And what does everybody want? I mean, we've heard the expression, people may forget what you said, they'll never forget the way you made them feel. You can use all the technology you like, but how do they feel? How do they feel? Mary Kay, she built a great empire. She said, people won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. We want to build a relationship. Let's care even more deeply for each other. Let's care even more deeply for our clients, to meet them where they are and somehow to help them to amplify their dreams, to get them out of the darkness of where they are to a brighter state.
Normally here, you'll hear my announcer voice telling you about one of our partners' great e-commerce SaaS businesses, but today I get to tell you about my thing and invite you to C-Suite Mastermind, Las Vegas, March 23rd and 24th. 2023. In September, we ran our first in-person mastermind in Victoria, British Columbia. It was a smash success and a clear sign to keep bringing together the top minds of our industry for concentrated learning and relationship building events. So now we can all meet up in Las Vegas, March 23rd and 24th, just ahead of Shop Talk. Check out directtoconsumer.co/events to see the lineup of amazing mentors we're bringing to the table, including the Midday Squares trio, the founders and operators behind Obvi Collagen, Mini Katana, Kuru Footwear, and more. So whether you're building in CPG, health, apparel, or even bladed weaponry, we're going to have the content and connections at C-Suite that make a serious impact to your results in 2023. So that's directtoconsumer.co/events, and Viva Las Vegas, and let's go. I like what you're saying. It made me, when you were talking about the questions that you're asking in organizations, the answers you're looking for, it reminds me of the proverb of the guy that wins some money, and they said, that's a good thing, right? And he said, let's see. And then he gets robbed from the money, and they said, oh, you just got robbed, that's bad. And he said, let's see. And then he got injured being robbed, so then he couldn't be drafted into the king's terrible war it saved him from going to war and dying. So it's always sort of like, it makes me think reality lives in this quantum state. We're talking about Einstein, we're talking about quantum theory. And so comfortability with chaos and with, Schrodinger's cat of whether it's alive or not, it's gonna help you.
Tom Peters wrote a book called Thriving on Chaos. Great book. And his fundamental premise was this: dash routine routinely. In other words, we've always done it this way. No, let's dash routine routinely. So what would that mean? Repot yourself every 10 years, race yaks, raise orchids, surround yourself with outsiders, take a different path to work every day, and not only surround yourself with outsiders, surround yourself with wacko outsiders. So let's talk with people who are so different from us that we say, oh my God, that person knocks me off my pins. I can't come back to any sort of reliable and proven stance because I'm just floating in space here. Great. And I think in anything, a lot of different people. I know an astronomer who lives here on the island. Now, interesting thing is, so here's an astronomer who actually failed mathematics. You think if you're an astronomer, you have to be brilliant in math. Well, he couldn't do math. Doesn't matter. Just like Richard Branson is so dyslexic, he couldn't read a spreadsheet to save his life. You don't need to. All he needs is creativity. He needs the creative spark. That's all we need too. The tools, someone else can manufacture those, or they're out there somewhere, as long as we have the concept. So this man, as an astronomer, he discovered quasars, pulsars, black holes, and all kinds of stuff. And how did he do that? He'd wake up in the night and say, I can't prove it, but I sort of have a feeling that. And when we come back to that intuitive sense, that heart intelligence, we've never done it this way, but I just wonder. And that will come when we see where we are and sort of ideally where we would like to be. And as soon as that's clear, the intuitive sense will say, like I'll see. You said, I'll see. Well, just see. Let's suspend assumption and judgment, see what shows up. It's quite amazing. Peter O'Toole was a great actor, obviously. I love metaphors. I think there's great learning in sort of lateral referencing. A great actor for 55 years. And He was once asked, what was the greatest direction you ever had? Even someone who could direct Peter O'Toole, I think, is phenomenal. And he said, this is all he said, not bigger, deeper. Everything I'm saying is going back to that same thing. Everything we need to know is already here. It's already there. So going back to Leonardo, in the times of Leonardo, there was string theory, there were black holes, quasars, pulsars, peptides, name it. It was all there, but nobody asked the question. It was all there. When we say discovery, just take off the lid. It's already there. All the answers that we need are within us. Let's just create a condition where people feel psychologically, emotionally supported, safe, just to go deeply into themselves. In that kind of chaotic, adventuresome, what is that? What was the movie? Da da dum da 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 da.
Indiana Jones?
Yeah, like Indiana Jones.
Hey, they're making a new one. Harrison Ford's
really?
coming back. Oh yeah, they're trotting him back out there. This is. I have a good friend who's recently started seeing an intuitive coach. And it's quite an en vogue thing is sort of this idea, and I fully agree. Like honestly, almost all of my success, it's come from working hard, but it's also coming from being able to live in that intuitive space. To whether it comes to the connections that I'm able to make for the events that we pull, or writing in when we first started the newsletter, writing in like my true voice, my true humor, my true wit, like just. And all the good things that have come from my side of the business have come from, I think, living in that intuitive space. So it resonates for sure.
Absolutely love it. So the culture is already there at Pilothouse. So people are invited to thrive in their own way, in their own uniqueness. Just go for it, and we'll love you for it. There it is. Just do it. All you need is already within you. Just go. We think of the word education. Etymology is always fascinating. So education comes from two Latin words, ex out of ducere lead. Education is the process by which people are invited to actualize, to lead out what is inherent. It's already there. Plato said you can't teach someone something they didn't already know. It's very simple. So everything that the Pilothouse needs to know is already within them. Just create a condition where they can just strip away the superficial, whatever exterior, and the essence is all there.
And
it's amazing.
that obviously applies to listeners, their businesses too. You just replace Pilothouse with your company name, and really open up your thinking around how to empower your teams to be creative and come up with ideas.
Peter, I loved the leadership workshop that we did, and there's some things I still do on a regular basis. Literally, the snapping, that calming, centering technique you spoke about kind of getting in rhythm, is something that I've really, really taken to heart. What else is something that you'd like to leave our audience with about leadership through trying times? Is there any other aspects?
I think belief is a huge word. Belief. There's a man here in Victoria, I much admire him, Richard LeBlanc is his name, and he's devoted much of his life to supporting homeless people. They're just people. They're in a circumstance, they see the world in a certain way, and that's the way they see the world. And his motto has always been, I will believe in you until you can believe in yourself. So when we believe in someone, Dr. David Bohm, the founder of the implicate theory of quantum physics, he said, what we seek is evidenced in what we find. That is the basis of the power of intention, the secret, the law of attraction, and so forth. So when we absolutely believe in someone, when we have all faith that they're going to do something amazing, they probably will. If we think, oh, well, these are tough times. Okay, what's the story we're telling ourselves? Challenge the story. Oh, these are tough times. We're going to have to buckle down. We'll have to double down, just sort of grind through it. That's exactly what we're going to get. It'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we create a scenario where there's belief and hope by which we fuel each other's enthusiastic participation. Enthusiasm in itself is amazing. It comes from two Greek words, entheos, in godliness. In other words, the wisdom of the ages, the collective unconscious, whatever, the knowledge of all we need is already here. Let's just believe it. Let's just amplify it. Let's support each other with love, love being the most important behavior that we can bring to any team. There's a guy named Tim Sanders. I found a blog that he, or whatever it was. I don't even know all this terminology. Anyway, he wrote this article, or whatever you want to call it. It was called "Love is the Killer App." He said, "Love is the killer app." He said it's not conspicuous accomplishment or imperious power or the mere drive of greed that'll make you successful in business. It is love. And what is the definition of love to which he absolutely aligns himself? It's from Milton Meyerhoff. He said, love is the selfless promotion of the growth of another person. Love is the selfless promotion of the growth of another person. And how wonderful is that? And the power of that is just enormous. I believe in you. Wow! And see what happens. What we seek is evidence to what we find. If we believe in our people, if we believe in our inherent ability, our heart intelligence, that we can turn these lemons into lemonade, we will. It's all the story. It's just the story. And it's just up to us to elect that. It's a choice.
This was proven in this year's Nobel Prize for Physics, which proved that the universe is neither real nor local, by expanding on the double slit experiment that I adverge. This is not a physics podcast, but it's definitely a pet interest of mine, and it really does sort of prove the secret to some extent that the universe is made of our expectations for it. If a tree falls in the woods, did it happen if a human consciousness didn't perceive it? We don't know. So. Anyways, this is ending on a very esoteric note, but I got to say I love it for the DTC podcast.
Well, and the neat thing is that, metaphors, cross learning is so important. That's why something, a quotation, a story, a principle from over here can inform over here. From over there can inform over here. That's just how it works. That's why, great teaching always brings in stories, metaphors, analogies, this kind of thing. There we are.
Eric, I wonder before we jump or whatnot, but Peter and I had the luxury of having a coffee yesterday. It's kind of how this all came about, one of our regular meetings. But Peter, and not to put you on the spot, but I think it was 5. You were talking about leadership traits. I think there was 5 categories, give or take.
Absolutely. So the first thing is integrity. What does that mean? An integration of values to behaviors to actions. So in other words, these are my values. Therefore, these are the behaviors I choose, and these are the actions I deliver. The second would be its consistency. In other words, that there's a reliability. There's something very grounded and certain in that. So that we say what we mean what we say. Our word is our bond. How important is that? How important is that? Absolutely. The third would be vulnerability. In other words, that we're emotionally available. That we show ourselves raw and real. So that people can say, okay, I get him, I get her, I understand. Person's emotionally available. The individual is also then receptive, susceptible, all of these qualities. And then it really allows everyone else to show up in their own authentic self. The fourth thing would be humility. There's a statement from the Tao Te Ching in ancient Chinese philosophy: the trees with the heaviest fruit hang closest to the ground. So to be truly humble, look at this fellow, Connor Bedard. Look at this guy. He's unbelievable. And when asked with, in Sportsnet, so, and he said, you've just broken all the records. He said, I just want to win the game. So the I to we situation, humility, how lovely is that? And then I would say finally, encouragement. Encore, to give heart to others, to be there for them. Absolutely. And all of that really is drawn together in that statement of love. So it's going back to, love is the selfless promotion of the growth of another person. And we think about those people who've had who've lasted in our memories. We heard the expression, people may forget what you said, they'll never forget the way you made them feel. So those people that we carry forward, we say, this might have been a relationship I just had very briefly with a teacher, with a mentor, with someone I just had a very short encounter with, or it could be a parent or someone like that. And this person showed me a model of behavior that had such a profound effect in my own behavior that I'm paying that forward. I'm paying that forward. And now I show it up in my current relationships, and the next generation will again pay that forward. Adler was once asked, what does everybody want? He said, everyone wants to be valued, to be understood, and to be significant. When we honor those fundamental needs in anyone, they will show up in their best self. And there's nothing more wonderful than that. There's a Jewish expression which is nachas, which means reflected glory. When our teammates, our friends, our colleagues do well, we stand in the shadow and glory in them in the light. Reflected glory. Is there anything more wondrous than that? Truly, the only things we get to keep are the things we give away. And there's the life everlasting.
It just makes me think of our every time we celebrate something on Slack, the sheer amount of emojis that get posted are it's sort
Exactly.
of our it's the vibe. It's obviously emojis are a paltry form of love, but just to see the spirit that and the joy that teammates celebrate each other's wins in an organization like this has been a very valuable thing to be a part of. Cam, you had a question or thought.
Yeah, Peter, I mean, there's so many different thoughts from all of this conversation, but one of the exercises that you took us through, I think you probably went through in both of the sessions that we've had with you, was some form of like profiling exercise where you've asked everyone in the room to do some kind of self-assessment and identify, I think in our case, like what type of communicator or leader each person was in the room. And I not that that's the first time I've done that, but I think in small groups or large groups, I think it was so valuable for me specifically to understand how everyone thinks and do it in a transparent way, especially when you are in times of chaos, to know how people approach problem solving and how people want to be communicated to. That was really, really an effective exercise for me. And I know there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but I appreciated that quite a bit. And I think that that's something that's stuck with me probably every single day. Honestly, I think I don't know if you can say the same thing, Kyle, but even just like the daily interactions between you and I think about that stuff all the time. So it's been really, really helpful.
You and I have a long working history across a lot of many roles, and it's always been an effective relationship, but certainly communication and how we both interpret each other over the years has been an opportunity for improvement. And certainly I respect and feel the same way.
I thank you so much, Cam. Thank you so much for saying that. I so appreciate it. I think the thing is we want to leverage our strengths, whatever they are. And so we're not there to emulate or to copy someone else's behavior. No, not at all. But really to really know who we are. And we can ask those questions, when am I at my best? What will I never do? What one word best defines me? These are really great questions. Having said that, within communication, I think we have to follow to lead. So we connect with, where does that person, where is his or her sweet spot? Where do they really thrive? How do they express themselves? Meet them there, and then they will thrive, and in turn will echo that back to us and encourage us similarly in our own unique style.
Here's my question. How does orchestral consulting or conducting, how is it the perfect metaphor for leadership? In a way, obviously you're leading this disparate group of people, but are there specific things in sort of what make you a great conductor that also make you a great leader?
It's a great question. So in the first place, I only play one orchestral instrument, which is hardly ever used, piano or celesta, or the other keyboard is harpsichord. I don't play the violin or the trumpet. Do I need to? No, not at all. It's not my job. My job is to provide a clear and compelling vision to which all others will believe. So that's a unifying factor. And then to invite collaboration. So cross-organizational clarity, the sharing of all critical information in real time. So, for example, the oboe has a solo for 4 bars, and direct the attention to the oboe. That means that the trombones have to balance to the oboe, have to connect with the oboe, and then it's going to move to the cellos for 8 bars. So now we're putting our all attention. So whose prime leads? That's a fundamental statement. But also, we want to remove obstacles so as to engender, enable, amplify cross-organizational communication. And then I would never say to the oboe, you have to play it this way. I don't play the oboe. I want to create a condition where that person, in his or her uniqueness, shows up and makes a contribution to which they can put their signature. There it is. Then it's authentic and it's real. So it's not under submission, it's by invitation. Leadership is not imposing, it's invitational. It's not prescriptive, it's provocative. It gives voice to others.
And I'm just seeing a conductor, and like I'm seeing the enthusiasm and the love that I bet that is, in your gestures. Like if you were to go up there and do it like a, like Hitler or something, do it like a really angry,
Exactly.
a really angry statesman or something, right? It wouldn't work. But I can just picture you in these moments and making these incredible real-time communications with a huge group of people and doing it with enthusiasm and with love.
Yeah, it's interesting. I got an inquiry from Google. This goes back about 3 years. And so they were looking for someone who was equally a leadership coach and a conductor. They found 2 people in the States, 1 in Canada. And so what they wanted was to have an orchestra in Fort Lauderdale and have all their senior people around the orchestra and have the conductor demonstrate how conducting an orchestra is a model for leading a corporation, which it is. It's just as I've explained it very briefly, but there it is. So I didn't get this engagement. Doesn't matter. Went to Ben Sander, who's awesome. He's in Boston. He already had a relationship with Google. But I've been speaking to some of my colleagues about this. And they said, oh, that'd be a great idea. So people will actually hear, and they'll never forget, what micromanagement sounds like. They'll never forget it. They'll never forget it. Or what it's like if you're crushing the organization. You're just sort of swarming them, as opposed to liberating the music. They will hear it. They'll never forget it.
Amazing. Well, if you want to make great music in your organization, you should just Google Peter McCoppin. We'll put a link to your name or however you'd like to be referenced in this show note. But I just know you made a big impact on Pilothouse as an organization, and a lot of the leaders that have had a chance to kind of work with you directly. And so, yeah, it's awesome to have you part of the All Killer No Filler family here. And I hope that our listeners get a lot out of this.
Hope so too. We're only here to serve. What a gift. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Kyle. Just so honored to be part of the Pilothouse family. So much love to you all. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're not getting the DTC newsletter, you can subscribe for free at directtoconsumer.co. And if you want to learn more about Pilothouse's all-killer, no-filler services, take off to pilothouse.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the DTC Podcast. We'll see you next time.